Welcome back, this is Goku Sun DBZ, and I thought this time we'd do a special little top 10 list, as most time I try to talk about more positive subjects. With that said, this time we are looking at, for me personally, 10 of the worst games that I have played that I personally own. So yeah, this is going to be, more or less, call it the top 10 worst games that I own. And this is from actual perspective, as I have played all these. And there are a few main contributing factors as to why these are in my top 10 worst games that I personally own, from my perspective, anyways. With that said, first up at number 10 is called Fade to Silence. It was a mid budget title, more of a survival crafting game of sorts. The gameplay is one of the big things that has it up here in the top 10 worst games I have personally played. I definitely did face quite a few glitches and bugs here and there. Nothing like game breaking, but still a very bad overall negative experience. And personally, the only reason it doesn't go any higher is because I don't think at least a lot of the gameplay issues I have with this game isn't as bad as any of the others on here. And with that said, the only positive thing I can give is at least the surrounding area, like the snow and stuff environment, is actually halfway decent. That's about the only real positive that I can give to the game. For the most part, I find it relatively bland, and it really does nothing to separate itself, for the most part, from any really survival crafting type game. That's way too many nowadays, in my personal opinion. Coming in at number 9 is Shockwave. Now, one thing I know about this is the first game I absolutely love, but here's the thing. I played Shockwave 2 before I played Shockwave 1, and that is probably one of the big reasons. In my opinion, the second game is far superior to the original. It pretty much fixes a lot of key issues I have with the first one, but one of probably the biggest reasons I have, there's definitely way too much issues with the overall gameplay of the game, unfortunately. And there's definitely a lot of issues also with the hitboxes and stuff up, like your surrounding environments you're trying to fly through. It's just weird how the game messes up when you try to get close to the mountains and stuff in the jet fighter. It really messes up and destroys really the gameplay for me personally. But though I had no huge bugs, the main bug problem was mostly specifically the gameplay was not great. The music was relatively nothing special, and overall, it was just a very bland game. Though, like I said, the hitbox issue and stuff with your area and stuff is one of the key worst parts about the game for me, anyways. Coming in at number 8 is a game at first I really enjoyed. I believe when I originally reviewed the game before I beat the game, I gave it some like a 7 out of 10 or something. Now looking back, I'd probably be giving this game at max a 5 out of 10, if not a 4.5. I will give positive stuff to at least some of the environments in the beginning of the game, and the music is not bad. Those are the only real positives I can give to Ever Forward. The glitches, though, in this game, the bugs, you'll see once eventually I upload my playthrough of the game. Some of them you don't see because I end up cutting off and re-recording some parts of the game because it literally screwed up and made the game crash. Keep in mind, this is a puzzle platformer type game. In total, like, the game should only take probably about 4 hours at max to beat. I ended up spending close to 10 hours, like twice as long as I should have, because of all the glitch issues with the game. That is the thing. This game, though, at the time when I played it, was already out for like a year and a half or so. So they should have had all the glitches and stuff worked, fixed. But no, they didn't. There was serious game breaking glitches that I faced. The game crashed on me probably 5 or 6 times. it was pretty infuriating, and that's why it's in the top 10 worst, and it's already, like, it's currently at number 8. Only reason it doesn't make it higher, though it's pretty bad, some of these other games, mostly glitches with gameplay is why. Coming in at number 7 is probably going to be somewhat controversial, but hear me out. Half-Life 2 on the original Xbox. This specific version is, in my opinion at least, of games I personally play and own, that I consider really bad in the top 10 worst because of how bad the glitches, the frame rate, and it really affects the gameplay big time. If you are going to play this, get the orange box set on 360 or PS3, play Half-Life 2 that way. Do not, I repeat, do not play Half-Life 2 on the original Xbox. It is horrible. There's way too many game issues with this game, or rather, I should say this port. This is arguably, well, currently 7th worst game, in my opinion, that I've gone through, just because the frame rate at times gets so bad, drops from like 60 to like 20 frames or less. Normally, frame stuff doesn't matter to me if it at least doesn't drop below, like, say, 40-45 frames. But when you're talking about a third of what it should be in frame rate and stuff, like, it really affects the game overall. And I did occasionally see and also experience some sound rate issues and stuff as well, not just the actual frame rate, but even audio issues at times that I experience, which is what puts it so low for me. Next up at number 6 is a game I'm not sure what some people's opinions are. If I just base it strictly on gameplay perspective, I'll be honest, Golden Axe Beast Rider is actually not a half bad, at least from the standpoint of actual fighting game mechanics and stuff in the game. It's actually not bad. That's the only positive, though, I can give. Um, the music is really a toss-up, in all honesty, but frame rate issues are really, really bad on the game, and that can really affect overall. Occasionally saw some issues here and there, also with the audio files and stuff. And yeah, I had the game crash on me twice and loading screens, so yeah, I definitely faced some major key issues, and that is the main reason why it's on here. Some people just bash it for the sake of bashing. I based my opinions not strictly on a biased perspective on things, but more from the perspective of just personal experience and how much it took me out of the overall enjoyment. Coming in at number 5 is Rise of the Guardians. It's basically a action platformer, a stereotypical type based around a film. The thing is, the film I actually like, Rise of the Guardians. However, the game has some serious issues, and one being hitboxes are very bad in this game, and it is to a point parts against computer NPCs and stuff. The hitboxes and stuff really affects the combat and really destroys the gameplay for me personally. I didn't face any game-breaking bugs in this game compared to some of the others, but still, from the frame rate issues and the definite glitches here and there, overall, it really does affect. And on top of that, the biggest, though, main pet peeve is, like I said, the hitboxes, and that affects everything basically, especially when you're partially a platformer. Having hitbox issues really affects your gameplay in a platformer. That is a key thing you cannot screw up. That, along with fighting games, are two biggies when it comes to actual hitboxes. Coming in at number 4 is probably a game a lot of people don't know about. It is an interesting third-person action game, but yeah, it has a lot of bug issues throughout the game, and I had the game crash twice on me, and frame rate well, let's just say it's some of the worst frame rate I've seen by far in any like game of the 8th generation, especially of the PS4. It is one of the worst frame rates I have ever seen in anything on the PS4 ever. And let's just say that probably explains why I found this game for $3. That explains a lot. Do I think it was worth $2.99 that I paid for it? Not really. I keep it just for the sake and to try to warn people. Do not play this game. If you ever see or are curious about it, if you can play it for free, I would say don't even waste your honest time playing the game, as it has lots and lots of bug issues, as well as hitbox issues when you're trying to shoot the enemies and stuff, and that can greatly affect it and end up screwing and getting you killed. But there are several different major issues and gripes I have with this game. Coming in at number 3, I thought this at times, but when I thought back contemplating, I have to put at number 3, Rise of the Robots. It is, in my opinion, probably the second worst fighting game I have ever played in my life. And though you can only play with one character and stuff, and you have to replay, I will say there is at least no game breaking like bugs and stuff. The gameplay and stuff, yeah, it sucks, absolutely. It's not a good game by any means. But at least you can play it beginning to end without crashing on you. I have to give it that much credit compared to two other games. And even though the gameplay is trash, still there's one fine game I think that's worse than this, definitely in the gameplay perspective. For me, coming in at number 2, worst game of all time, at least that I personally own, and easily the worst fighting game I own, in my opinion, is, Criticom. Criticom is a fighting game I don't recommend anybody actually collect unless you got a weird obsession over collecting obscure fighting games or games in general. Fine, but I would say you might be better off getting the PS1 version than the Saturn version. But from a gameplay perspective, Criticom is absolute trash, especially from a gameplay perspective. The only positive I can give Criticom is at least it doesn't crash. Though the gameplay is absolute trash and it's weird how it plays. It is the worst playing fighting game of all time. And the only other positive I can give it is at least the music is 50-50. Some is okay, some is not. And the opening cinematic is actually decent. And that's about the only positives. Overall, though, is just in general a bad game. But coming at number 1 is a game that legit I have never seen crash or have so many game-breaking bugs in my life. And the fact this game actually comes from one of my favorite developers of all time, publishers, is the biggest sin for me. For me, worst game that I've played / own is called Left Alive. And what saddens me is the fact this game was done and published by Square Enix is the biggest problem I have. This game, the music is definitely nothing special, and I definitely saw multiple times audio issues, and there's definitely key problems I have with that. And I definitely don't recommend to people unless you really want to put yourself through living hell. But no easier way to put it. But the frame rate stuff at times would drop from like say 55 frames per second down to like 15 frames per second. And if there are too many enemies and stuff on screen, like sometimes not only would it do that, it would sometimes just immediately boot you out to the main screen or immediately crash and you get kicked back to the main screen of your console and stuff, and it states like system error. I never even fully finished this game. I put in probably about 5 hours, and that is being generous to this game, as the fact this game crashed 9 times on me. literally on average would crash at least probably every 30 minutes on me. That is annoying and has absurd levels of crazy. And in fact, this game had a budget of like $50 million is even crazier. This is arguably how you don't make a third-person action game. Pure and simple. You're better off going back to the PS1 and playing shooters and games like, I don't know, like Siphon Filter 1 or 2. You're better off playing that stuff. At least it'll play at minimal, at least at 30-35 frames per second, which is over double of this, and that's just crazy. But seriously, this is easily the worst game, at least, that I have played that I personally own. I've played much. I've played other games I would say worse. I've never owned and never will, but I will say this was a big disappointment to me. Yeah, I picked up in the bargain bin, and I understand why it was in the bargain bin, as I found it for $5 within 6 months of its release. When you go from $60 to $5 within just several months, that says there's something right there. And plus, I completely back other videos I've seen here on YouTube of people talking about this game. Don't play it, and if you don't believe me, just check out some of the gameplays and stuff, reviews from other YouTubers. But with that said, that is 10 games that I can honestly say personally I've experienced. I do not recommend anyone put themselves through, but if you're a masochist, be my guest. But with that said, I'll see you next time, and stay safe out there for the rest of the holiday season, as it's now mid-November.